Hi everyone, welcome to channel Qtomation. In this session, we will see about positive testing and negative testing. So what is positive testing? Positive testing is a type of a testing which is performed on a software application by providing the valid datasets as an input. So whenever we get the application which is newly developed, or let's say any new features are implemented in that application as per the requirements given by the product team, we have to first verify whether all the valid inputs are working as expected or not. So in the requirements, they will provide you the use cases, the user flows. So we have to check all those things in positive manner, whether they are working as per the requirement whenever we are giving positive inputs or not. For example, let's take a simple input field. And as per the requirement, it is mentioned that specific input field of age should accept only the numbers. So what we will test during the positive testing? We will enter the number as 1, we will enter the number as 2, we will enter any positive number to check whether it is accepting only the numbers. That is kind of a positive testing because that input field is supposed to accept only the numbers. So that is called as a positive test scenarios. So we have to check whether the software application behaves as per the expected with positive inputs or not. Positive testing is performed in order to check whether the software application does exactly what is expected it to do. So we have to verify whether the software application is doing exactly what is it is expected to do. That is also called as checking the happy flows. So whenever we get any new build, we should check the happy flows first. So happy flows will verify whether all the positive flows are working correctly or not. That is called as a happy path testing or happy flows testing. For example, in the software program, we have to provide the valid inputs and we have to verify whether we are getting the expected results or not. That is called as a positive testing. And then what is negative testing? In the same example, where we are expected to put the numeric inputs, let's say if user tries to input some character in it. Now the field is expected to accept only the numbers. But if the user try to enter along with the number, if the user try to enter some special characters or let's say some string character in it or let's say some letters in it, then it should not accept that. It should throw some error. That is called as a negative testing. So this is basically invalid input. So in the number field, if you try to enter some character or let's say some words in that field, ideally that should not accept it because it is invalid input for the number field. Now such scenarios are called as a negative test scenarios. So negative testing is a testing method performed on the software application by providing invalid inputs or improper dataset as an input. So we always verify the positive ways. So positive what is given in the requirement, those functionality should obviously work in correct manner. But apart from that, we cannot control the user actions. So user can do anything, but we can handle the incorrect inputs in our application. So in negative testing, we have to mainly verify that such negative inputs or invalid inputs are correctly handled by application or not. So application should show some error messages. It should guide the user that he has done some incorrect action or he has provided some invalid inputs. So such scenarios we have to handle during negative testing. So negative testing, we check whether the software application behaves as per the expected with the negative or unwanted user input. So we can also check for the invalid inputs, the application should give some error message. That is called as a negative testing. The purpose of negative testing is to ensure that the software application does not crash and it remains stable with invalid data inputs. So in positive testing, we have seen that we have to make sure that application is working correctly for the correct or valid inputs. And what are the advantages of positive testing? So positive testing mainly ensures that the application is behaving correctly with expected input. It will also verify that application meets all the specified requirements in the documents, and it will build the confidence about that application that it is working as expected with the valid inputs. That is covered under positive testing. So we have to do positive testing anyways, but along with the positive testing, as a tester we should always do the negative testing as well. So we test the application with positive inputs, and we should also check the application for invalid inputs of the user. So what are the advantages of negative testing? So negative testing will improve the robustness of the application. It ensures that the application can handle unexpected or invalid input without crashing the application. Let's take an example of some form. So in that form, there are the fields which are expected to accept the country name. But if user try to enter some numbers in it, then whether it should accept it or not accept it, it should not accept it, because that field is allowed to accept only the country name, that is a string characters, but not the numbers. So we will test the application in positive way by inputting some country name in it, but along with that we should always test the application with some negative inputs as well. We should try inputting some special characters, some numbers, etc. So it will increase the robustness of the application. Also, it will enhance the user experience. So it will ensure that the application provides correct and meaningful error messages, and it should guide the user whenever the user is making the mistake. So users, we expect every time to enter the correct input, but it is not practically possible. Sometimes user might enter some incorrect inputs as well, because at the end it's a human. So there can be a human mistakes. So user involuntarily can enter some invalid input in our application. But as a developer and as a tester, we should always make sure that our application is handling such error scenarios correctly. That we should cover under negative testing. It also helps to identify some edge cases. So sometimes in edge cases we found some issues because of negative testing. So it helps to find out such issues, and we can solve those issues before deploying the application on production. So that those are the benefits of negative testing. Let's say some more examples around positive testing and negative testing. Very simple example would be a login feature. So whenever we are login to any website, normally what we will see? We will see some username field, some password field, and login button. So as a part of positive test case, what we will do? We should check whether user should be successfully log in when he is entering correct username and correct password. So after entering correct username and correct password, when user clicks on login button, he should be successfully logged in to the system, and he should be redirected to home page or dashboard page. That comes under positive testing. But what is the negative testing in this scenario? We have tested for positive scenarios, that is correct username, correct password. But what if user enters incorrect username and correct password? So for invalid username, user should not be able to log in, and proper error message should be displayed to user informing that username is incorrect. If the user enters correct username and invalid password, then also user should not log in and proper error message should be displayed. What if user don't enter anything? He just keep the username and password field blanks and click on login button. So in that scenario also user should not be login. Again error message should be displayed to user. So these scenarios are negative scenarios. So we should always test our application with positive scenarios as well as negative scenarios. So in negative scenarios, it should show some error messages and it should handle the situation correctly. It should guide the user with proper error messages. Another example would be shopping cart. So on e-commerce websites, we search the product, we add the product in our cart, right? After item is added to the cart is updated to reflect the new item. That is the positive test scenario. After adding the item to cart, it should display in that cart. And user should be able to remove cart option if there are items are added in that cart. So if you add the items in the cart, before checkout, you should able to remove the items as well. So remove button should be able to see, user should able to see the remove cart option as well. Remove the product from the cart option. That is the positive scenario. Now what are the negative scenarios? Let's say a user tries to add a quantity of a product that exceeds the available stock. If available stock is only 5 and if user is trying to add 6 items of that same product, error message should display to the user indicating that requested quantity exceeds the available stock. Now this is a negative scenario. One more scenario would be user is not able to proceed with an empty cart. If user has not added any item in the cart, we should not allow user to proceed with that empty cart. That is again a negative scenario. One more scenario would be user should not be able to see remove cart option if all items are already removed. If we don't have any item in our cart, user should not be able to see the remove product from the cart option. Right? So this is again negative scenarios. So these are some positive and negative scenarios around the cart. Now let's take another feature of searching the product feature. What are the positive scenarios in the search feature? Let's say user searches for a specific product that exists in the database. So you will type the product name in the search box and you will click on search. On that case, the product should be displayed. Search results should be displayed. That is the positive test case. What is the negative test case here? If the user try to search for a product that is not existing in our database, then in that case, user should be displayed some message that no product is available. That's called as a negative test case because product is not available. So that is basically a negative test case. So these are some examples of positive and negative test cases. So while executing the testing, once you understand the functionality of the feature and what you want to test, you should always consider positive test cases and negative test cases as well, because whenever we test positive and negative test cases together, then only it makes the software or the application robust and functionally correct. Because testing only the positive scenarios will give you lots of errors if you don't check the negative scenarios. If you don't check the negative scenarios while testing, and if the user tries to perform such actions, then they will get incorrect experience. So that's why we should always test positive test cases as well as negative test cases as well. And how to identify the negative test cases? So again, whenever we are reviewing the system requirements and specifications, we should always consider edge cases as well. We should always think like end user. What are the possibilities of end user can do along the positive way as well as negative way? So think about the valid inputs as well as think about the negative inputs as well. Negative inputs as well as negative actions which can be done by end users. So once you think in this perspective, you would automatically understand the negative cases as well. And we can also take help of some of the previous known issues as well. So that will also guide you to understand the negative test cases. And the main and most important is, as a tester, we should always think like end users, because application is going to be used by lots of end users. We should always try to think as an end user and test the application, and we should always try to break the application with invalid and unexpected inputs as well. So such invalid and unexpected inputs should not break the application. It should be handled correctly. That we have to verify. We should show some proper error messages. We can show some proper next steps to the user, so that user would know what is the incorrect or invalid input he has given, and he can correct that action. That is the correct user experience. So this is all about positive and negative testing in software testing. Thank you for watching this video. In coming session, we will see end-to-end testing. What exactly is end-to-end testing means.